Here's what I want you to see starting out. I want you to notice that this short leg and the hypotenuse, notice that the hypotenuse is twice as long as the short leg. The other thing I want you to notice is that this short leg times the square root of 3 is equal to the long leg. Okay? So I'm actually just going to write that one down. The short leg times the square root of 3 is equal to the long leg. Do you see 1, the short leg, times the square root of 3 equals this long leg, square root of 3. Okay? Pay attention to that here, and we're going to get started. I know you could just guess on this, multiple choice. You wouldn't learn a thing if you just guess. So that is why I'm going over this, so you actually learn something. First thing I'm going to look for in letter A is I can see that there's a double. So here I've got A, 4, and 8. Those are doubles. So I'm going to predict, to get started, that 8 is the hypotenuse, and this is the short leg. All right? So using what I pointed out over here just a minute ago, do you see that the short leg times the square root of 3 could give us the long leg? Let's check it out. Short leg times the square root of 3 equals the long leg. Yes, we've got a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Do the same thing with letter C. Notice we have a 3 and a 6. Well, 6 is double 3, so let's predict temporarily while we're checking this out. If this is the hypotenuse, this is the short leg, check again. Is the short leg times the square root of 3 equal to the other leg? Well, yes, 3 times the square root of 3 is right here. So there you've got that one. C is good. B and D are not quite as obvious, but let's take a look. Do you see that there's an understood 1 here? So we have doubles again. We have 2 times the square root of 3 and have 1 times the square root of 3. So temporarily, while we're checking it, let's make this the hypotenuse. Let's make this the short leg. Okay, so if this is the short leg, we should be able to multiply it by the square root of 3 and end up with our long leg. Let's check it out. Square root of 3 times the square root of 3, right? Because isn't that what we said? The short leg times the square root of 3 will give us the long leg. So square root of 3 times square root of 3 is equal to 3. What do you know? Here's our long leg. So this is also a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Well, now we can know that D is the correct answer because we've eliminated all the other options. However, I want us to talk through this one so that you learn a little bit more. Here we have a 1 times the square root of 3 and 2 times the square root of 3. Okay, so this looks like doubles. So we could say, well, this is the hypotenuse, this is the short leg. That won't work because the hypotenuse, and that would leave this being the long leg. Well, there's no way that'll work because you can't have a leg longer than the hypotenuse. And because there's a 4 here times the square root of 3, and here's a 2 times the square root of 3, that's not even logical. You can't have a leg longer than the hypotenuse. So let's back up and see what else could be the case here. Well, here we have another double. We have 2 times the square root of 3 and 4 times the square root of 3. So that might work. So let's call this the hypotenuse. Let's call this the short leg. So if this works, then we could say 2 times the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 should potentially give us our long leg, right? So are we going to get the square root of 3 when we're done multiplying here? No, we're going to get 2 times 3, which is equal to 6. This is definitely not 6. So D is, in fact, the one that does not work.